Hey, welcome to another video. This one is about this adjustable height workbench that I picked up. This is the Home Depot or Husky brand adjustable height workbench. And I had been planning on making a workbench for sort of the central area of the shop to act as a general work area, assembly table, and outfeed table for the table saw for some time, but never got around to it. And came across these, and it seemed like it pretty much fit the bill, but I did make some modifications to make it more useful. One of the first ones I did was it comes with leveling feet or locking casters, so you can either make it stationary or mobile. But I sort of wanted the best of both worlds, and so I got these leveling casters. And what these allow you to do is lower down a foot to make the bench both stationary and then also lets you level it out. But if you raise the foot, then it lowers down onto the little wheel there and lets you move it around. So this is sort of the best of both worlds. And these were a drop-in replacement. They had a 3/8" stud, which is what was on the OEM ones, and so they went right in without an issue. So the next modification, slightly more involved than the wheels, was adding some storage to the underside of the bench. I felt like that there was a lot of wasted space there, and small shop, I'm trying to get more organized and maximize the amount of storage space for tools and materials and stuff that I had. So I came up with a way to store some of these. They're Cydio crates, and they're standard size milk crates. Other than these particular ones are half the height of a standard size milk crate. And I got these two that I'm showing here years ago, just because I came across them and I got a couple just to check them out. But I thought that they would make a good way to basically have some sort of pre-made drawers for this storage under this bench. The problem I had was that there was really no good way to attach anything to the bench. I didn't want to go into the legs because you've got the mechanism for raising and lowering it. And the center beam isn't very structural. It's really just there to keep the legs from, popping out too far to the side. But notching out this 2x4 and then coming up with this frame and essentially the cabinet ended up working out really well. Now, I ended up making the cabinet well. I was making a few other mistakes. As you can see, I'm correcting one here. I got a little overzealous with the saw, cutting this half-lap joint. If this was anything serious or structural or that, I'd redo this whole thing, because of these half-lap joints, as you may be able to recognize at this point, are actually upside down. This is the bottom of this frame, and so you'd actually want those joints going the other direction. But again, by the time you get the bottom on it and everything, and some of them didn't even, I don't know what I was going too fast or what, but they were a little loose, so I put some dowels in there just to stiffen them up. Probably not even necessary. Again, by the time you got the bottom piece of plywood on, it would have really just not been an issue. But in any case, I also built the cabinet part weird, as you'll see. I think originally I was thinking I was only going to use 3 crates, and then I decided I realized I had enough room for 3 more, and while still being able to lower the table to its lowest point. But I wasn't sure if I was going to use like another full cabinet around it or just runners on the side. And then I think I got to this point and decided I was just going to use like runners and have the top of the top crates open. But then I realized that I maybe wanted a top on it. Anyway, it ended up weird. I didn't have a plan, and I was just going by the seat of my pants, which is normally, for me, ends up with things being a little goofy. So I ended up adding these, cleats or whatever you want to call them on the sides here, and that actually ends up being the best way to actually hold this cabinet. I had intended to only screw in from the bottom frame, from that bottom beam into the wood frame of the cabinet, but that ended up actually being too wobbly. It probably would have worked, but they may have ended up working loose at some point, because again, that bottom beam is not very stiff or structural or anything. So those cleats actually ended up working out really well and almost negated the need for the screws in the bottom, even though I ended up putting them in. And later on, you'll see that I put some additional straps on just to help sort of stiffen up. Not super necessary, but you'll see them later on, and I'll talk about them then. So these are just some pieces of flat bar that I'm adding to the, essentially both fronts of this cabinet, just to create a little bit of a lip, so the crates don't slide out. If you bump them or moving the bench around or whatever, just makes it so you've got to lift up just a little bit to get the crate out. And the nice thing, and this is one of the sort of goals, was I can get to the crate from either side of the bench. So I plan on using this bench, being able to, I want to be able to sort of walk around it, sort of move it to like essentially the center of the shop, be able to walk around it. And so being able to get to the crate from either side is nice. And then you can also pull the crates completely out if you need to take them wherever. So yeah, you can see you can see the dividers in here. These are something that you can get with these Cydio crates. You can get lids for them too, and various other things. So the top at this point is still, essentially a flat open place, and I thought about keeping it like that. As I was using this, putting this whole thing together, and then also doing some other projects in between this, I found myself setting stuff on top, which is nice because you can set some stuff there and get it out of the way, but still have it close by. But I thought it might be better to have a way to keep stuff there, but keep it from rolling off or falling off or whatever. So I came up with these, I don't know what you want to call them, frames or whatever, and I just ended up, pocket holing them down to the top here, just so that I could put some stuff in there, just some more storage, either temporary or semi-permanent or whatever. Obviously, if something is in there like these gloves or the paper towel roll, you can't lower the bench to its lowest point, but that stuff's also not in there permanently. You can just take it out if you really had to get it down to the lowest point. So the next modification that's going to come up here is the tabletop itself. And I ended up actually replacing the top of this bench. Now, it wasn't super necessary, I don't think, and the original top is perfectly serviceable, and it's not going to go to waste. I used part of it for this bench, as you'll see, and I'll use the rest of it for another project. But I wanted to use it's the microjig match fit system. And what that is you use a dovetail router bit to router out some dovetails in the tabletop. And then you can use the match fit clamps in order to create basically a clamping surface. And you do a grid of these dovetails, as you'll see, in the bench top to give you a very versatile sort of clamping system. And I'm not a woodworker, I'm a generalist, but I still felt like that this would be a fairly useful addition. And the problem with the original top was it was just barely, I think they recommend a minimum of 1.5 inches for something like a tabletop for the match fit, just in terms of having enough structure there, because you're routering out these channels. And the original was like 1.2 inches thick, and then I was also worried about the fasteners. It uses threaded inserts to attach the top to the frame, and I was worried about hitting those. I don't think that would have actually, in hindsight, would have actually been an issue, but it wasn't the worst thing. I just got a butcher block top from Home Depot and used that. And again, I used part of the original top for part of this bench, which you'll see up for the side, which you'll see coming up here. But you can see the grid in the top. And this is before I actually routed out the channels. And I'm just using a pointed bit to get the router lined up on this on the center line for the channel. And I'm using this, it says this is a 3D printed base plate. And I don't remember, as I'm recording this, I don't remember the name of the person who makes this. I'll link them down below, and I'll probably insert it on the screen here. But it's a 3D printed base plate. It makes them for a variety of different routers and track saw track. But it makes it really nice, a nice setup for routering out channels like this and getting them getting them nice and straight. So you can see this is on the side here. This is a piece of the original top that I cut a grid into. So this gives you the ability to attach, things on the side for, if you need to sand it, or I made sure as much as I could that these are, it's squared to the top, so that if you need to glue something and you want it to be at a right angle, then that works out in that way. It's not super stiff. If you pull on it, it will deflect. Just again, sort of running into an issue of having a place to attach things. So it's not as stiff as I would necessarily like it to be, but I think it's stiff enough for what I'll use it for. And yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen how well these hold up, these routed out channels in the wood and that. But so far, I think it'll be a nice addition. So you can see I added, and I'm not really super happy with the way these turned out, but I added these straps. These are just some flat bar that I bent. And the thing about them is it does sort of stiffen up the whole table, because I made them to size them so that it sort of clamps the legs to the cabinet. So it made it a whole lot stiffer, but not super necessary, to be honest with you. So anyway, that's basically it. That's the whole thing. And you can see it'll work nicely as an outfeed table for the table saw, and then you've got the clamping surface on the top and the side, and storage to boot. So yeah, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it useful, and I will see you on the next one.